can make a way. Hey, hey, so humble yourselves and pray and guard his Torah. Obey each day. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hoshiana, Hoshiana. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Let's get started. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. How are y'all today? Awesome. Y'all, it seems like every time I get in front of y'all here lately, it is cold the night before. And I know all the people over there that are, places like, it just went away. We got Alaska. We've got Montana. That's the one I was thinking of. And y'all's version of cold, my version of cold are not the same thing. But it got down to 27 degrees last night, and that's pretty cold here. I saw a pretty funny meme the other day. It said, springtime in Georgia, doesn't matter what kind of jacket you put on, you're wrong. So that's what it feels like. But we are in spring, and that's exciting because that means that we're getting right next to Yahweh's New Year. And are y'all excited about that? How do we know that Yahweh's New Year is coming up? Well, Yahweh told us about it. Let's go check it out. We're going to go to Exodus 12. Exodus 12 is going to be on page 68 on the ISR Scriptures, 98 version. We're going to read verses 1 through 14. All right, verse 1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of beings. According to each man's need, you make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of this month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the house where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire. With unleavened bread and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roast it in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave of it until morning. And what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it, your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passover of Yahweh. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night, and shall smite all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast. And on all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim I shall execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I smite the land of Mitzrayim. And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall observe it as a festival to Yahweh throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival, an everlasting law. So this is something that we've got going on, and this is something that is coming up, and it's very important to Yahweh, amen? All right? There's 2 different things that go along with this, though. We have the Passover, and then we have this guard the month of Abib that is associated with it. Let's turn over to Deuteronomy 16:1. That's going to be on page 202. I think this guard the month of Abib is something that has a multiple meanings associated with it. And hopefully we'll be able to get through that today, and it'll be something very important because once I started doing the thing that I want to share with y'all today, it changed the trajectory of my life. And so hopefully if you take a hold of it, it'll do the same for you. All right, Deuteronomy, we're just going to read the first verse, 16:1. Guard the month of Abib and perform the Passover to Yahweh your Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your Elohim brought you out of Mitzrayim by night. All right, so this guarding the month of Abib is just part of what is going on. And it's a little bit different than the other appointed times. So I want to read about the other appointed times, and then we're going to come back and see something different. So let's turn over to Leviticus 23 real quick. And we're going to read the entire thing because we need to know what the appointed times of Yahweh are. All right, page 129, Leviticus 23:1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, and say to them, The appointed times of Yahweh, which you are to proclaim as set-apart gatherings, my appointed times are these. Now, before we go on and read the rest of the chapter, I want to look at some definitions with you. That word there for appointed times is Hebrew 4150, and if you're not familiar with what the Hebrew part of that is, that has to do with the Strong's Concordance. You can look and it'll have an H in front of it, meaning that it came from the Hebrew, or it'll have a G in front of it, meaning it came from the Greek. So H4150 is just how they denote it inside of the Strong's Concordance. So we're going to look at that, and H4150 is Moed. And Moed means appointed place, appointed time, a meeting. All right, so that's important because in order to have a meeting, you have to have both a time and a place in order to get together. Is that correct? So it's very important to know that Yahweh's sitting there saying, I got a time and a place, and I want to come meet with you. These are the set-apart times of Yahweh. All right? So let's look. There's a couple other ones. Appointed time, sacred seasonal set feast, appointed season, appointed meeting. I want to harp on this meeting thing because getting together with Yahweh is something that we shouldn't be taking lightly. All right, we'll get back over into the scriptures. We're going to read 23:3. All right, 6 days work is done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a set-apart gathering. You do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yahweh in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yahweh, set-apart gatherings which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. Now, this word here for gatherings, where it says set-apart gatherings, is another word. It is H4744, and it is a mikra. All right, so a mikra is just a little bit different in that it is a meeting, but it's a specific type of meeting. It is a public meeting. So it says something called out that is a public meeting, an assembly or a convocation. All right, so those are the differences between the two. One of them is a set time and place. This is a time that we're going to meet, and then the other one is a special type of meeting. Okay, good to know. All right, let's go ahead and read. We're going to read the entire chapter, the rest of it. Leviticus 23:5. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between the evenings, is the Passover to Yahweh. And on the 15th day of this month is the festival of unleavened bread to Yahweh. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh for 7 days. On the seventh day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, When you come into the land which I give you, you shall reap its harvest. Then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. And you shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest waves it. And on that day, when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male, a lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as a burnt offering to Yahweh. And its grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahweh, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering, 1/4 of a hin of wine. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to Yahweh, to your Elohim, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf, the wave offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths. Verse 16. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahweh. Bring from your dwelling for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread, of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, they are, baked with leaven, first fruits to Yahweh. And besides the bread you shall bring 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and 1 young bull, and 2 rams. They are burnt offerings to Yahweh, with their grain offerings and their drink offerings, an offering made by fire for a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And you shall offer 1 male goat as a sin offering, and 2 male lambs a year old as a peace offering. And the priest shall wave them besides the bread of the firstfruits as a wave offering before Yahweh. Besides the 2 lambs, they are set apart to Yahweh for the priest. I always get this visual thing in my head of them picking up them goats and just sitting there and swinging them around, trying to do it as a wave offering. But anyway, verse 21, and on this day you shall proclaim a set-apart gathering for yourself. You do no servile work on it, a law forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field. When you reap, and do not gather any gleanings from the harvest, leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Verse 23, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you have a rest, a remembrance of blowing of trumpets, a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, on the 10th day of the 7th month is the day of atonement. It shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall afflict your beings, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And you do no work on that same day, for it is the day of atonement, to make atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim. For any being who is not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people. And any being who does any work on that same day, that being shall be destroyed from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It is a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings. On the 9th day of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you observe your Sabbath. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th month is the festival of booths, for 7 days to Yahweh. On the 1st day is the set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. For 7 days you bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. On the 8th day there shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It is a closing festival. You do no servile work. These are the appointed times of Yahweh, which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings, to bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a slaughtering and a drink offering, as commanded for every day, besides the Sabbaths of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and besides all your voluntary offerings which you bring to Yahweh. On the 15th day of the 7th month, when you gather in the fruit of the land, observe the festival of Yahweh for 7 days. On the 1st day is a rest, and on the 8th day a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the 1st day the fruit of good trees, branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. And you shall observe it as a festival to Yahweh for 7 days in the year, a law forever in your generations. Observe it in the 7th month. Dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites dwell in the booths. For that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Yahweh to the children of Israel. So the reason why I wanted to go over that was so that we could see there's a bunch of different appointed times. But Yahweh goes and he says something here in just a minute where there's something special found inside of those appointed times. He talks about there's 3 times in the year that are a little bit different. We're going to look at those next. Let's go to Exodus 23. Exodus 23, we're going to be in verse 14. That's going to be on page 81. 3 times in the year you are to observe a festival to me. Guard the festival of unleavened bread. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, and at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Mitzrayim. Do not appear before me empty. Now, RISR says empty-handed, but I'm going to say empty, and we're going to get to why that's important here in just a minute. So do not appear before me empty. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the outgoing of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in the year, all your males are to appear before the Master Yahweh. So at these 3 times, the males are supposed to come, and they're supposed to do something. Let's look at it one more time. Exodus 34. This is going to be on page 94. I'm sorry, 95. And we're going to be in verse 21. Exodus 34:21. 6 days you work, but the seventh day you rest. In plowing time and in harvest time you rest. I always think that it's funny that Yahweh puts it that way, because it's like, people are interesting creatures. Whenever they've got something to do, they'll get out there and they'll get after it and just about kill themselves working. And so Yahweh's like, even when it's plowing time, even when it's harvest time, when it's go time, you got to remember that's my Sabbath. But I think on the flip side of it, he's also catching other people, because there's some folks that would rather rest 6 days and only work one. And so he's telling them, don't you forget, you work 6 days and you rest on one. So I like how that's written, because it catches it both ways. Anyway, back to it. Verse 22. And perform the festival of weeks for yourselves, for the first fruit of the wheat harvest and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times in the year, all your men are to appear before the Master Yahweh, the Elohim of Yisrael. For I dispossess nations before you, and shall enlarge your borders, and let no one covet your land when you go up to appear before Yahweh your Elohim 3 times in the year. Now I want us to remember those last 2 verses, because we're going to come back to them. I think that's one of those things that has multiple meanings, so it's pretty cool. All right, last place we're going to go to with this is Deuteronomy 16. I just want to make sure we got 2 or more witnesses. It's going to be on page 203. And we're going to be in verses 16 and 17. Deuteronomy 16:16. 3 times a year all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he chooses. So we got a time and we got a place. At the festival of unleavened bread, and at the festival of weeks, and at the festival of booths. And none should appear before Yahweh empty, but each one with the gift of his hand, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you. Now, that whole thing about the males presenting themselves and not to appear empty, we've got a custom at our congregation that we do. And so I don't know if the people on the congregation or on YouTube know about it, but what we do is all the males get together and we circle up, and we'll go over there and we dedicate ourselves to Yahweh. We talk about how we want to be better for him. We talk about how we want to be better dads, how we want to be better husbands, how we want to be better leaders. And we ask him to help us with that. And that's been a tradition that we've done for a long time. And I'm wondering if this whole thing about appearing and empty might have some other connotations associated with it. So to jump into that, let's look at the definition of what appear is. So that word right there in verse 16, where it says, and none should appear, is H7,200, and is ra'ah. And it says to see, to look at, to inspect, to perceive, to consider, to see or perceive, to see and have vision, to see, observe, consider, look at, give attention to, discern, distinguish, to be visible, to cause to see, to show. So to me, there's some things in there that sound just a little bit different than just showing up when you're looking at words like to have vision, to discern, distinguish, to be visible, but to cause to show. Who are you causing to show here? Let's see if we can answer that here in just a minute. Let's look at the word for empty as well. Wait, I may have one more definition. No, I do not. Okay. The word for empty is Hebrews 73:87. All right. And it says vainly, or the word is rekaim. It means vainly, emptily, in empty condition, in vain, without effect, empty, idle, worthless. All right. So that sounds a little bit different, because I've heard before it talks about showing up with an offering, and that was maybe what it was talking about. But I'm thinking this is a little bit this is a little bit deeper than that. Okay, so if you show up with an offering, surely that's not worthless. But what else could you show up with and it be worthless? I want y'all to remember that Exodus 23:17 says 3 times in the year all your males are to appear before the Master Yahweh. These are the meetings that Yahweh is going to have, and you're not supposed to show up empty. You don't need to show up worthless. You don't need to show up without effect, and you don't need to show up without or being vain. And so when I was reading this year, it was about January time, and we were doing some stuff at work. So during January, we start doing, we start doing it in December. We start doing end of year planning. And so what we do is we review what happened last year, and then we start projecting what we hope to do in the coming year. And as I was reading this, I started looking at it and saying, this almost sounds like what we do. What we do, though, is based off of quarters versus what Yahweh does. So you'll find out Yahweh does stuff different than the world. Y'all agree with that? He tends to do that. So, but what we do is we come up with some ideas of what we would like to do for the coming year. Then we bust that up into 4 different sets, and we call that quarters. So it's like, hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to set this portion over here as the first quarter. This is what we hope to accomplish. Then we work on that, and we work on that, and we work on that. Then we come back at the second quarter, and we have a meeting and say, how'd we do? All right? If we did good, awesome. Can we keep going? Do we need to make an adjustment? What's going to happen here? So I was doing all this whenever I was reading this, and I was thinking about that, and I called my buddy up, Houston. Now, Houston is a good business guy. He's one of my accountability partners, and I like the way that he looks at things. And so I was talking to him about this, and I was like, this almost sounds like Yahweh wants you to come and talk to him 3 different times in a year, almost like I talk to my business coach, except for I do it 4 times in the year. He said, that's different. I hadn't thought about it like that. And I was like, but whenever you go and you meet with Yahweh these 3 times, it's almost like he set his up off of the agricultural society. So the first time that you go meet is at the first of the year. It's right when the first of the year starts out. So that's like how we do whenever we start out with our new year, and we have, all these goals and aspirations, and we set up there. But then Shavuot comes along. Shavuot's only 2 months later. It's not a full quarter, but it's 2 months later. So we have a harvest that happens then, but I wonder if you're supposed to come and talk to Yahweh then and see, hey, how you doing with what was going on previously? And then the last part of it is that we meet at the last harvest of the year to find out what we're going to do for what our plans were for before. And he's like, you said this was a meeting, right? And I said, yeah. And he said, and you're wondering about the whole thing about being empty, right? And I said, yeah. And he's like, could showing up empty maybe mean that you're not prepared whenever you come to have a meeting with Yahweh about what you plan to do for the next year? I said, that's pretty good, Houston. He said, now, it could be a physical offering, but then again, could it be something like you're saying, hey, let me show you what I did with my time last year and how I plan to spend my time this year that you've given me. Or this is what you've given me with resources. This is what I did last year. Here's what I plan to do with the year coming forward. And that maybe these 3 times in the year is when you're supposed to go and present your plans for what you plan to do with what Yahweh has given you for the coming year. I said, Houston, that'll preach. So, with that in mind, I want to evaluate that and see. First off, let me ask you, are y'all making any kind of plans for the new coming year? Some people may say yes, some people may say no, all right? It's very easy not to. It's very easy just to get going and get going. But I have to tell you, we'll read some statistics here in a little bit. It is advantageous for you to make some goals, make some written goals, and to be able to have a plan to present to Yahweh to be able to move forward. But what I'd like to do, if it's okay with y'all, is teach you how we've been doing it for the past 10 years. There's all kinds of different books, all kinds of different tactics, but I'd like to show you what we do, and y'all can take it for what it's worth. So, how do we do our planning? The end of year is very important. So that's the reason why I wanted to hurry up and get this message in right now, because we're moving to the end of the year. What you have to do is you have to start out with, where am I right now? When you go and you plug something into a GPS, you need 2 pieces of information, don't you? What do you need? Where are you going and where you at? Matter of fact, the GPS can pull up where you're going, but if it don't know where you're at, you can't get there, right? So with that in mind, you have to do the same thing with your life. Where are you at right now? You're going to have to get with yourself and take a moral inventory of what it is that you've been doing. Oh, man, I forgot a scripture for you. This is cool. All right, so finding out where you're going is a vision, right? It's a picture of what's going on and where you're going. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people are let loose. But blessed is he who guards the Torah. All right? When you don't have a vision, the people are let loose. And that word there, let loose, is not used in a good sense most of the time. Matter of fact, it's used over there with the golden calf. The people were let loose to their shame. So when there is no vision, the people are let loose. So it's very important that we have these goals and aspirations that we're about to present to Yahweh. All right, so when we get in there, the first thing that we do is that, and me and Ashley do this. This isn't just my company. This is, for y'all that don't know, I run a real estate investment company. We buy and sell houses, but we also have rental property. And so it's two companies housed in the same house, but it has two different things. We do the business side of it, but we do the personal side of it too, but we take the same approach, right? The first thing that we ask ourselves is, what did we do last year? And we apply that to some different areas that I'm going to tell you about. So we say, what did we do? How did we do it? It's important to know the how that you did it as well, because then you can start evaluating the next thing. Did it work? Did it not work? And then the last thing you ask yourself is, how can we improve it? All right, and we take that and we apply it to the 6 areas. Actually, it's not 6 areas anymore. Pat Caldwell, Brother Pat over here, helped me to learn that there's a 7th area that I need to work on. So I'm very appreciative of that. He totally rocked my world last week. So the 6 areas are as follows. And this is my order, and I'm going to tell you why it's my order. They can be in all kinds of different orders, but here's the 6 or 7 areas that you need to look at. Spiritual, health, family, relationships, business/finance, education, and now fun. All right? And so what we do is this is going to take a little while, y'all. This isn't going to be something that happens in an hour. It's not something that's going to happen in 2 hours. Most of the time, we spend at least a week on the personal stuff and then another 2 weeks on business stuff. All right? So, and remember, I got 2 businesses, so it takes a little while with that. But you have to know where you're at to know where you're going to go in order to plug it into the GPS of life. So I have these written in a specific order that is personal to me. My very first one is spiritual. And the reason why that's important is because if I'm not right with Yahweh, none of the rest of this is going to matter. If I'm not doing what I need to do in order to present this to Yahweh, nothing else matters. So when I sit down and I look at what was my spiritual life, what did I do last year? I'm going to say, how did I do on sermons? Did I do sermons? Did I not do sermons? Did I do things that worked? Did I not do things that worked? For instance, last time I did a sermon, I tried a different speaking style. Instead of having bullet points and just sitting up here and speaking to you, I went and tried to type out everything I was going to say. Turns out that doesn't work well for me. I get ADD and I get off track, and there was a couple of long pauses that should not have been there because I got off track. So that's something that I did. It's something that I tried different, but it didn't work for me, so here we are back to bullet points. But I wouldn't have known that had we not evaluated it. All right? How did I do on Scripture? Was I reading the right amount of Scripture? What kind of goal did I have for myself on what we're going to do? Seth, when do we read Scripture? Every night. When? All right, that's our goal. All right? How am I doing with my prayer life? Am I spending enough time talking to Yahweh? All these different things are things that are important with my spiritual life. And once again, if I'm not doing that, nothing else is going to matter thereafter. If I'm not right with Yahweh, nothing's going to happen right. And I take that from Matthew 6. Y'all can turn there if you want to. You don't have to. It's the very end of where Yeshua is sitting there telling the people about worrying about food and clothing, and don't do that. And verse 33 says, but seek first the reign of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these matters shall be added to you. So with that in mind, I put the spiritual part of the areas as number 1. Now, number 2 for me used to be family, but then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, I need to slide that down just a little bit. Health is number 2 for me. And the reason why number 2 is health is because if I'm not healthy, I cannot perform for my family. So Yahweh goes first. Number 2 is health. I saw something the other day that cut me to the quick. It said, of course you would die for your kids, but would you live healthily for them? And I said, wow. And that goes not just for your kids, that can go for your spouse, that could go for anything, anybody that's important in your life. And so that's the reason why health comes in number 2. And so then I sit down and I say, what did I do last year? How did I work out? What did I eat? What did I not eat? What worked? And we go through that whole scenario. Number 3 is family. All right, for me, the reason why that comes number 3 is I want to be a great, not a good, I want to be a great father. I want to be a great husband. Actually, that's number 1 for me, is great husband, then a great father. and a great son, and a great brother. And I had to sit there and evaluate, what did I do in order to accomplish those goals? Going back to, what did you do? How'd you do it? What worked? What didn't work? Relationships is the next one for me. And that's because my next part is I want to be a great neighbor and friend. And so we do the same thing in that area. Number 5 is kind of a hyphenated thing, business or finance. All right. And the reason is because for me, I'm running 2 companies. I have to look at it from a business side, which leads to finance. If, you're working a job, then finance may be the only part that you want to deal with. And if that's the case, then you should have goals for what your money's looking like. What'd you spend on? What'd you not spend on? How are you saving? Are you not saving? Ask all those questions. Number 6, education. For me, I put this at the bottom because I need to get educated in all these different areas. And I read books and I do seminars in different places. I read books on how to be a better husband, how to be a better dad. I read books about business. I read books about health. I read a really good book about health the other day. And I read spiritual books. And all those things are to make myself be better educated so that I can move forward. And y'all don't know this. I told you about it. Brother Pat rocked my world. Brother Pat just passed his test for his pilot's test. And I was sitting there and I was marveling at that while he was talking. Not only does that mean, we know he's really, really smart, but he was able to carve out the time. And I say carve out the time because Pat's a busy guy. He's got projects going over here. He's got family going over here. And to be able to carve out the time to be able to do something that was enjoyable to me or to him really cut me to the quick because I'm bad at that. I'm really bad at that. What I will do is I'll work myself until Ashley's not here. I can tell this story. I'll get overworked. And when I get overworked, I get grumpy. And one time I'd gotten so overworked that my dear sweet little wife came in there and she said, Joey, you're overworked, you're being a jerk, and you need a break. And so we went to a cabin that weekend over in North Carolina, and we had the best time ever. And we were only there for 3 days, but the whole point was that it got me away so that I could get recharged. I don't do that naturally, and so I need to be able to focus on that this year. Thank you, Pat, seriously. Focus on that so that I don't become a grunt bump and not be good for the rest of my family and for everything else that's dependent on me. So those are now the 7 areas: spiritual, health, family, relationships, business and finance, education, and now fun. Now, I want y'all to remember, where there is no vision, the people are let loose. All right, so as you're looking at those different things, you can say, I want a good spiritual life. Would y'all say that's a vision, or would y'all say that's a goal? Think it's a goal? It's a vision. All right, and we'll say why in just a minute. A vision is a goal without a destination, without a plan associated with it. And so just to say something blanket like that is not specific enough to be a goal. That is something that's abstract. That is a picture out here for me to look at. I want to be healthy. I want to have a great marriage. I want to have lots of friends. I want to go have fun. What does that mean? You want to fly planes, or do you want to go play pool? Or do you want to sit in front of the TV? All that's okay if you are budgeting for it correctly. All right? I want to be financially secure. What does that mean? I want to be educated. So all those are visions, but they're not a goal until we put it to a plan. I got here written, a goal without a plan is a daydream, aka a vision. So visions are important, though, because Yahweh's been doing it since we came out of Mitzrayim. The very first thing he did was he painted this picture of what a vision was going to look like to be in this land flowing with milk and honey. And you need that for 2 reasons. One, that gives you a mental destination of what something's going to look like, but then you can get a plan on how you want to get there. In my world, that comes in the form of a 1-year picture. All right? There are different people that can see in all kinds of different ways. And by that, I mean see into the future. There are folks that can look and say, I know what I want to be like 30 years from now. That ain't me. There are people that can do 10 years. There are people that do 5 years, and they can see, I'm going to be there in 5 years, and these are all the steps I got to get there. That ain't me. I can see 1 year. I can get to next year pretty good inside my head. After that, my vision gets blurry, literally. I can't see what happens past that. But if I can get a 1-year picture and see where I want to be, I can backtrack to today and say, these are the steps I need to take in order to get to where I want to go. That is very important. And that is what happens when you start out at the beginning of the year, is you do the end of year review, and then you set your 1 year picture of what you plan to do moving forward. But in order to achieve that 1 year picture, you have to set SMART goals. All right? Now, SMART is an acronym. And you might want to write this down. SMART stands for S, specific, M is measurable, A is attainable, R is realistic, and T is timed. All right, so let's do this because it's easy to be able to do weight stuff. All right, I want to be healthy. That's not a goal. I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 6 months by working out 5 times a week and eating 2,300 calories. Is that pretty specific? All right, all of a sudden we've got a game plan on how to get to where it is I want to go. All right? Now, I did a little bit of extra inside of that because I gave you a lot of different things in that. I gave you some measurable things inside of that. Not only can we measure my weight, I want to lose 10 pounds, I want to work out 5 days a week, and I want to be able to eat 2,300 calories. Right? That's all measurable. All right? Is that attainable? Right? I want to lose 100 pounds in 6 months. Right? Even with surgery, I don't think that's happening. But that's not attainable. That's not realistic. All right? So you got to be real with yourself, because if you set yourself up for failure, it will not work. Yahweh even did this when we were coming out of Mitzrayim. He didn't take us through Edom because he didn't want fighting to befall us and we returned back to Mitzrayim, because it was unrealistic for us to go charging through that right after we came out from being slaves. You got to be realistic with it. The last thing I said on that was I want to do it in the next 6 months. You got to have a timetable associated with it, because if you don't, you won't ever get to it if you're like me. All of a sudden, when we get the time crunch on it, I'll work really, really hard. And I don't know why that is. It's called the 80-20 rule, but it is what it is. As you're doing SMART goals and you're setting those SMART goals, though, something that you need to ask yourself is, why do I want to do this? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to have a good spiritual life? Why do you want to do all these different things? The why oftentimes is more important than the goal itself, because it is what gives you the motivation to push forward when things get tough. It is the thing that allows you to keep pushing forward when you could give up. It is the thing that sets the vision in your mind and solidifies it so that you can keep moving forward. So ask yourself, why do I want to do this? If you don't have a good why, it's probably going to fall through. So make sure it's a good one. And the next thing that you're going to want to do is you need to write down your goals. You need to write them down. What writing them down does is it takes it from this abstract thing that's out here in oblivion, yeah, I'll be healthy, and that causes you to actually sit down and make those things specific. You start writing down your SMART goals, and then you can see it, and then it becomes real because it's now physically in front of you. You also have to read them to yourself regularly. So, I'll tell you something I'm bad at is, I actually had to hire somebody to make me not do this. I would come up with these awesome year pictures, and we'd write down all these goals, and then whenever we got to like November, I couldn't even tell you what the goals were because we'd never look at them for the rest of the year. That don't work. I actually hired somebody that makes me look at them weekly in a meeting with other folks so that we continue with our business goals to be able to go. Now, if you don't hire somebody, you can definitely do something that is easier. You can get an accountability partner. You can get a friend. If you're married, it is way more likely that you will be able to succeed at your goals if you share your goals with your partner and if you write them with your partner. All right? They will sit there and they will push you. So, me and Ashley are working out together. Ashley still works out and I still work out. We can't work out together right now because of childcare stuff, but I would come home and not want to work out, and I would not want to disappoint my wife, and so I'd go out there and work out anyway. And you know what? She didn't feel like working out either, and she went ahead and came on and worked out because she didn't want to disappoint me. And so whenever you get together and you work like that, remember, you're a chad. You are one. Y'all are supposed to be working in the same direction and for the same purpose. And whenever y'all set those goals together to be able to move forward, you'll be able to do some awesome things. Here's some stats. All right, so this is going to be from Gregorian stuff because it has to do with New Year's resolutions. But it is staggering, all right? New Year's stats for the U.S. Only 50% of people set goals for the year. Of that, less than 10% actually make it to the end of the year. 10%. 25% of the folks fail in the first week. 60% after 6 months. And then after that, only 10% make it to the end. And they found a tremendous correlation between actually writing them down and doing it to success rates on it. 10%. Are we set apart people? Are we supposed to be different than the world? We should have a higher success rate than 10%. Amen? Amen. All right. There was another study that was done over by the psychology professor over at the Dominican University in California. They led a study on goal setting with nearly 270 participants. The results were you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. That doesn't mean 42% more people achieve their goals. You're 42% times more likely to be able to achieve your goals if you write them down and you revisit them. I said it already, writing them down takes it from the abstract and forces you to make smart goals. Let's turn over to Proverbs real quick. We're going to read some Proverbs. The reason why this was important to me is because in the Torah, we don't get necessarily thou shalt write goals. But we also don't get some that say thou shalt take a shower all the time. But I highly advise it. Please. But I did find some stuff about your plans and committing them. All right? Proverbs 10:24. That's going to be on page 736. What the wrong one fears comes upon him, but the desire of the righteous is granted. All right? That comes to what your why is. That comes to what your goal is. Being able to present those things to Yahweh. And you need to read them out loud daily. Let's go to Proverbs 12. We're going to be on 14. 738. Read them out loud is very important so that you can hear them and so that they become real to you. Proverbs 12:14. From the fruit of his mouth, one is filled with good. Read them out loud. And the work of a man's hand is given back to him. Next is action. The way of a fool is right in his own lies, but he who listens to advice is wise. The next thing you have to do is after you've written the goals, after you've said them out loud, you actually have to go out and do something. Because if you just do all this stuff and then you throw it back there and you don't look at it till November and you don't know if you did anything or not, nothing really happens. But turns out there's scripture about that too. Proverbs 14:22. Just got to flip the page. Proverbs 22:23. Do not those who plan evil go astray? But kindness and truth are those who plan good. Notice that they say plan. What is a plan? It's a vision with action associated. That's your goal. Verse 23. In all labor there is profit, but talk of lips leads only to poverty. You can talk about it all day long, but if you don't get out there and get after it, nothing happens. All right, now, but I want you to realize when we think about poverty, we tend to think about monetary, but poverty can be all kinds of things. You can have poor health. You can have poor relationships. You can have poor education. All those things are fixable, but you got to get out there and get after it in order to make those things happen. Very, very important. Let's see. But most importantly, you need this plan so that you can be ready for your meeting with Yahweh. So let's get back to the 3 times of the year. Proverbs 16:1. To man belongs the preparation of the heart, but from Yahweh the answer of the tongue. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Yahweh weighs the spirit. This one's important to me. Commit your works to Yahweh and your what? What? I didn't hear that. That was quiet. And your plans shall be established. Jump down to 7. When a man's ways please Yahweh, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. And then 9. A man's heart plans his way, but Yahweh establishes his steps. When you do all this preparation and you get it ready to be able to come over and talk to Yahweh about it and show it to him, commit your works to Yahweh and your plans shall be established. Do you want Yahweh to establish your steps? Do you? Then you need to spend some time on this and get this ready. We've got 3 weeks until Passover gets here. And I'm sorry for the folks on the thing, you're only going to have 2 weeks if we get it out by next week. That's plenty of time, though, if you take this and get after it. Proverbs 19:2. But you have to want it, and you're going to have to get after it, and you're going to have to do all these different things. Proverbs 19:2. Also, desire without knowledge is not good, and he who hurries with his feet sins. If you just go and try... And verse 15 on that, laziness makes one fall into a deep sleep, and an idle being suffers hunger. If all you do is you go and try to run into this and you don't spend the time on it, it will hurt you. It will hurt you. And on top of that, you're going to come in and try to sling that in front of Yahweh, and he's going to be able to call your bluff. He really is. He's going to look at it and be like, I don't know about all that. But something that's cool with that is that with the way that Yahweh designed it, you're only going to go hard after it for 2 months before you come back to him. And when you come back to him, all of a sudden you've got an opportunity to adjust your trajectory. You can say, Yahweh, I've been working at this and this and this. This ain't working. I'm dying over here. Man, I don't know about this. And then you can reset your plans so that you can finish up the year strong. That's something to know. A goal is not rigid. It needs to be fluid so that it can move. That being said, I'm not saying you keep moving the target on down the road unless you're going to pass it. Don't keep it moving it closer to you. But you have the ability to be able to say, okay, what I set wasn't realistic. What I set wasn't attainable. I didn't realize that. I need to change it. And the reason why you need to do that is so that you don't become discouraged and then fail based off of that. So that's very important with that. Proverbs 19:20 through 24. Listen to counsel and accept discipline so that you are wise in your latter ends. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the counsel of Yahweh that stands. This is why this is so important to have it when you come to present it to him. What is desirable in a man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. The fear of Yahweh leads to life, and he remains satisfied. He is not visited by evil. A lazy one buries his hand in a dish and does not bring it back to his mouth. Now, don't be that last guy. I've thought about that a lot, about what does that mean? How could you be so lazy that you bury your hand in a dish and you can't bring it back to your mouth? And to pass out? I mean, what is it? But I think what it is there's a lot of times that you can get excited and you'll start doing all this stuff and you'll do all this stuff and you'll get it set up and then you don't act on it. You don't keep acting on it. You become discouraged. You have not brought it back to your mouth. You just set it all in the bowl. You got the Cheerios in there and you're ready to go. And then, I'm just going to walk away from it. You can't do that. The why that you have of why you set that bowl up, the why that you have associated with that is what is going to keep you strong enough to keep moving forward with that. And if you have a plan that is worthy of Yahweh's acceptance, he's going to help you with it. He's going to establish your ways. And that's going to keep you moving forward and you won't be that guy. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the hard worker lead only to plenty, but all rash haste only to poverty. All right, we've got time to be able to do this, and then we can get after it and work hard after it. I said that just a minute ago. Poverty is not just with money. But I want you to remember the 7 areas as you're getting ready to do this. We got spiritual, we got health, we got family, we got relationships, we got business and finance, we got education, and now fun. I'm going to keep it that way. And now fun. I like that. If you need accountability, find it. You can do it. Annually is not enough. Annually is not enough. You can look at quarterly meetings. You can look at monthly meetings. We do quarterly meetings. We do monthly meetings. We do weekly meetings. And we even have a daily huddle to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to in the business world. In the personal side of it, it's not always that easy. Because what will happen is you might get somebody that's buddy with you, and your buddy will let you off. So you really need an accountability partner that'll say, hey, what's going on here? I love you, but you ain't doing what you said you was going to do. And that unto itself is huge. Find that person or find that group or whoever it is. At my gym, I have a tribe over there that will, if I miss a day, hey, Joe, where's you at? All right, just checking on you. You going to come in later today? Yeah, you had a late night with the baby? What about 4:30? You going to be there 4:30? I get up at 4:40, y'all. And my why is I want to be able to live healthy for my kids so that I can spend a long time with them. And I also want to be healthy for Ashley so that I can be there and be the man that she needs to be. And we had like the worst night ever. I mean, it was the worst night ever. Eliab woke up at 12 o'clock doing that scream panic cry. And we're like, what in the world? Ashley got in there and got to soothing on him, and he'd fall asleep. She'd go put him in the bed, and as soon as she put him back down, he'd wake up screaming. And that went on for nearly an hour, and then finally I got up. And I went in there and we started looking at him. We was checking the diaper, make sure he didn't have bad diaper rash. He's good. We started with the Tylenol because maybe he's teething real bad. That didn't do much. His nose is sitting there running like crazy. We gave him some of those Highland cold tablets. And then finally I saw him sitting there doing like that, and Ashley saw him doing like that, and I was like, maybe he's starting to get an ear infection because he'd been snotting from the grass, and maybe that was pouring back in there. So we poured some oil in his ear, and I don't know if it was a sum of all the parts. I don't know if it was the one thing. Whatever happened, that baby finally fell asleep on Ashley's chest. And she stayed in that recliner for 3 hours. And 4:40 rolled around, and Joey got up. Joey went to the gym, and then Joey came back home, and he fell back asleep. But I still got my workout in because my why was I need to be healthy for my family. And if I stop, I will stop. Things in motion tend to stay in motion. Things at rest get Joey fat. It is what it is. I know myself. If I stop, I stop. If I go, I go. There is no in between. But my whole thing with that is that my tribe over there will call me and ask me, hey, well, are you okay? All right, you need some extra sleep. Are you going to come in later today? You bet. And you don't want to let them down. Going back to me and Ashley working out, I didn't want to let her down. She didn't want to let me down. We still do that in the day. I go to work out in the morning because I can't let her down. I don't want to let my tribe down. I don't want to let my friends down. I don't want to let my wife down. I don't want to let my kids down. All that holds me accountable. Same thing for her. Find you an accountability partner that can help you go and help you do. You tend to go hiking a lot here lately. You got an accountability partner, don't you? Mildred will call you up and say, hey, let's get after it. That's good. You need that. So Yahweh doesn't ask for quarterly meetings to happen with you. That's a high leadership level right there. All right, that's going to meeting the CEO of the universe. All right, that's what that is. He wants to meet with you 3 times. What do they mean? And what happens when you do it? Let's go to Exodus 34, 23, and 24. Just so y'all know, I'm flipping the big scriptures, and it takes a lot longer to get to the back of the book or the front of the book. All right, we're going to Exodus 34. And we're going to be on page 95. And we're going to be in verses 23 and 24. 3 times in the year, all your men are to appear before the Master Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. I want y'all to listen to this next part. For I dispossess nations before you, and shall enlarge your borders, and let no one covet your land when you go up to appear before Yahweh, your Elohim, 3 times in the year. You can take that one of 2 ways. You can take it like Yahweh's just going to have your back whenever you're going to travel. The other side of it is when you have your plans and you're going, you prepare to appear before Yahweh and not be empty, that He's going to move things like dispossess nations before you, so that He can establish your path. He's going to enlarge your borders. He's going to help you with all that. And let no one covet your land when you go up to appear before Yahweh. See how there's 2 sides of that? All right, so let me ask you this. It says the men here. What about the girls? What are they to do? All right, so the way that I look at that is that the men are supposed to be the heads of the houses that are going over and presenting that. I think as a head of a house, you're supposed to be presenting the wife's stuff and the kids' stuff and anybody else that's of age inside the house as well. Yeah, all of a sudden it's on you. All right, so you need to make sure that departments below you are doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm not talking about iron rule. I'm talking about, hey, we need to have goal setting inside of our house. How can we do this? And now I have your plan, I have our plan, we have our family plan. Now, let me go and present that all to Yahweh. All right? So it's not like the girls just get to go around and do nothing either, even though I don't think they do. I think my girl works harder than I do. But that's where that one's at. We serve a mighty Elohim, don't we? I mean, He is willing to dispossess nations before us. He's willing to enlarge our borders. He's willing to let no one covet our land. He's willing to do all these things for us. Shouldn't we be prepared to go and see Him when it gets time? Let's turn them over to Psalms, please. Uh-oh, I got Proverbs, not Psalms. Wrong way. There we go. Psalms 20, verse 4. On page 655. We serve a mighty Elohim. Verse 4. He does give you according to your heart, and he fills all your what? Plans. Trust in Yahweh. That's Psalms 37:3. Flip over. I didn't put a space there. That's on page 665. Verse 3, trust in Yahweh and do good. Dwell in the earth and feed on steadfastness. That means you got to keep going, y'all. And delight yourself in Yahweh and let him give you the desire of your heart. Commit your way to Yahweh and trust in him. And he does it. Flip over to Proverbs 3:5. I would be remiss if I didn't have that one in here. That's going to be on 729. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. If you know him in all your ways, what does he do? And you plug it in that GPS, you got to know where you're at, where you're going, and he'll tell you which ways to go in between. So we're talking about all this stuff about making our own plans, but didn't YHWH talk against this? I've heard it before. I'm glad everybody else found that, so I could leave it out, but I've already said it, so let's go there. Luke 12. Nip that one in the bud. That's going to be on page 998. This has to do with the parable that YHWH was speaking about. We're going to be at verse 16, and we're going to read through 21. And then he spoke a parable to them, saying, the land of a certain rich man yielded well. And he was reasoning within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room to store my crops. And he said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull down my storehouses and build greater and store all my crops and goods there. It's a lot of plans, isn't it? Then say to myself, life, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take ease, eat, drink, rejoice. But Elohim said to him, you mindless one, this night your life shall be demanded from you. And who shall own what you have prepared? So is he who is storing up treasure for himself and is not rich towards Elohim. Now, I've heard people say, using this parable, that you shouldn't try to make plans for yourself, that you should just do whatever Yahweh has you to do. Now, when I read this, I see something totally different. I see a dude that made a bunch of plans that become lazy. And we've read some Proverbs about what happens to the lazy because he wanted to do all this stuff. And then at the end of it, he said, take ease, eat, drink, and rejoice. And that was whenever Yahweh said, buddy, that ain't what's going to happen. We're designed to work. I mean, straight out, we're designed to work. Even when Yahweh put Adam in the garden, what did he tell him to do? Work it. We didn't even get free lunch. Poor Adam. But we are built for it. We're designed for it. We're good at it. We got to get out there and do it. That's what I think the error in that logic is. But I also think they stop right there as compared to reading on. So let's keep reading. Verse 22. And he said to his taught ones, for this reason I say to you, do not worry about your life, which you shall eat. Does this sound familiar? Nor about the body, what you shall put on. The life is more than the food, and the body is more than the clothing. Look at the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which have neither storehouse nor granary, and Elohim feeds them. How much more valuable are you than the birds? And which of you by worrying is able to add 1 cubit to his lifespan? If then you are unable to do the least, why do you worry about the rest? Look at the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And I say to you, even Shalomo in all his esteem was not dressed like one of these. And if Elohim so clothes the grass, which today exists in the field and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more you, O you of little belief? Why? And do not seek what you shall eat or what you shall drink, and do not keep worrying. For the Gentiles of the world seek all these, and your Father knows you need them. But read this one. But seek the reign of Elohim, and all these shall be added to you. When you stop working and you start working for your own pleasures as opposed to committing your works to Yahweh and putting Him first, that's when this error happens, and that's when things start going bad. But when you include Yahweh in everything you do, what does He establish? All your ways, and He makes your path straight. We are meant to work and do good for the esteem of Yahweh. Amen. And when we seek Yahweh first, He establishes our plans. Now I want to finish today with the Aharonic blessing, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. Y'all go ahead and turn there. It's in Numbers 6:23. But while you're doing it, I'm going to say it in Hebrew. Yevrakeka Yahweh vayishmereka, Ya'ir Yahweh panavaleka vikaneka, Yasai Yahweh panavaleka v'yasem lecha shalom. Now, I want to read it with you because there's part of that gets left out that I think is so important to do with how much Yahweh loves us. All right, we're on page 146, and we're going to be in 6:23, the book of Numbers. Speak to Aharon and his sons, saying, this is how you bless the children of Yisrael. Say to them, Yahweh bless you and guard you. Yahweh make His face to shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahweh lift up His face upon you and give you peace. That's where we normally stop. But I think we need to read verse 27. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel. And what's that next part? Wow, we got an amazing Elohim. We've got an amazing Elohim. Y'all remember that. Commit your plans to Him. Do the year-end planning. Go ahead and figure out where you're at right now and what you need to do to move forward. Find you a one-year picture. Set some goals. Proverbs 6:30 says, commit your works to Yahweh, and your plans shall be established. Make that plan and make sure that your year-end picture has SMART goals associated with it. Proverbs 3:6, know Him in all your ways, and He makes all your paths straight. Present them to Yahweh in the 3 times in the year, and you will be prepared to show up to the meeting with the CEO of the universe, and you won't be empty. Shalom, y'all.
Hey, hey, and He can make a way. Hey, hey, so humble yourselves and pray and guard His Torah. Obey each day. Hallelujah.